Dr. Sharon.
Thank you. I'm really glad to be here today. Thank you so much for being here. I know the only thing between me and your grand prize drawing, well, between you and the grand prize drawing is me. So thank you again for staying. And so let's see if this works. Okay. The font size is really small. I don't know if you can see it, but this is what I have been doing this past year. I'm the co-founder of US-China Education and Culture Center and Veritas Education, where we do college application coaching, we do writing, math, communication, leadership training. We also help students with career mentoring and academic coaching. So we do a lot of different things and have been helping students for many, many years now with their college application and with their writing. And I actually have one student here from my writing class and two students from the math class today. The families to support, so thank you so much. And so I'm also the alumni mentor for Harvard College and university students. So throughout my time last year in Boston and even until now, I have interacted with many Harvard students, both at the graduate level and at the undergrad level. So I'll be able to share some of their stories with you today. So many people think that writing is hard. Well, writing is not hard because we write, right? We write blogs, we tweet, we write emails. But, well, actually writing well is hard because we have to get our message across from senders to receivers. And that's actually not an easy process. So let's talk about that process for a few minutes now. I don't know if you have seen this process model before, so there are these two cute smiley faces. So we have the messenger, you. Okay, the essay writer. You're trying to send a message to the admissions officers. You want them to know who you are. You want to tell them an interesting story about you. So as you look at this process model, it looks really straightforward, right? So you have the messenger right here, and you have the message, and then you have the recipient. Looks really simple, but in fact it's very difficult. I don't know if Patrick, you remember we talked about this model, right? So there are things that are affecting us when we write. So when we speak, there are actually many things that can help us transmit the message that we want to see, or we want to send, such as our facial expressions, right? We can smile, or we can use our gestures, or we can use our body language. We can walk around. We can use visual aids. But when you write, it's just text. You have no smiley face. You have no visual aids. You have no music. You have nothing to help you, which makes it very difficult. So if you look at this thing right here, you will see that there's the decoding process, that's where you write, and then the decoding process where people try to perceive or process what you're trying to say. And unfortunately, the overlapping part is not very big, meaning that there are things, barriers, communication barriers, that can distort your messages. So let's talk about some of these barriers. The use of jargons. Okay, so I actually just talked to one of my students this morning about the use of jargons, right? And sometimes students like to use abbreviations or really fancy words to somehow impress, or they think that they're trying to impress their admissions officers. No, you're actually trying to confuse your admissions officers, right? So don't use jargons. Try to explain things in your own words. Sometimes what you think the meaning of the word may be very different from what the admissions officers think because of the cultural barriers, the cultural differences, or maybe because of the age differences, right? So there are many reasons in terms of why we should not use jargons. Lack of focus, that's another big one. Sometimes people have many stories to tell. They have really interesting things to share. But you only have how many words? Maybe 600 words, right? So you have to know what you want to say. You have to have a theme. You can't just talk about everything else or everything you want. And of course, grammatical errors, spelling errors, and then differences in perceptions, which I talked about earlier. That's one thing that we don't think a lot about. We tend to think that others are just like me. They think like me. So when they read something, they automatically get what I'm trying to say. Well, in the real world, we know that does not happen, right? So, writing is difficult because there are all these different barriers. So this is the writing process. So we have to actually, before we even start writing, we have to have pre-writing. We have to actually think about what we want to say to the admissions officer. We have to think about our audience. We have to think about the purpose of our writing. We have to think about, well, the outline. Okay, so even before you start to write, we should outline what we want to say. And then, of course, some people might say, well, I don't like to outline. Well, okay, that's okay too. But you will see that you will have to come back and revise your papers many times. The 1 hour thing, you know, like taking 1 hour to finish your essay, that probably would not fit this model. Because writing actually takes a lot of time. It's a lot of work. And then once you start writing, you have to organize your thoughts. You have to make it flow. You have to have your topic sentences, right? You have to have examples. So one thing that I have noticed throughout my years of teaching students how to write, and when I grade college students' papers, because I also used to work as a college professor and have graded over 1,000 college-level essays. One thing that I've noticed is that students they don't know how to write in a way that is really focused or about them. They tend to say things that are really broad, such as, I like science. Science is fun. Okay, then what? Why should we admit you, right? Because science is fun for me too. What's so special about your case or about your application? So we have to think about how we organize our thoughts and our messages. Of course, word choice, our sentences. And then after you're done, I would recommend that you send your paper out to at least 2 people. One person should be someone who knows you well. Okay, someone who can tell you, hey, Patrick, you missed something. There was something that was really interesting that you did when you were 15. You're not 15 yet, but when you're 15, you should add that in. You might say, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Of course, you don't have to take the suggestion, right? But you might think about it and say, yeah, that's true. I missed that, I forgot about that. So you might ask your parents to read your paper for you. And I would also encourage you to find someone else. This person should be someone who doesn't know you as well, or someone who can provide objective suggestions, so that they can read it as if they were an admissions officer. And they can tell you, hey, you know, after reading your paper, I still don't know who you are. After reading your paper, I don't know, I'm a little confused. Actually, I don't like your paper too much. Right? You want someone who can be really honest with you. After that, of course, that you have to take their suggestions and revise your paper, and edit your paper, revise it again, have someone else read it, and then finally you send it out. So it takes a long time. Actually, my own cousin, so I have a really young cousin, he just turned 18 several years ago, and he kind of did what Jeffrey did. He wrote his essay a few hours before the deadline. And I tried to help him. I said, no, okay, let me proofread it for you. Don't send it out yet. He's like, no, but the deadline is tomorrow at 8, I have to send it out. I said, no, just wait for me. And then he sent it out before I even had the chance to read it. And of course, he didn't get it. Yeah, so I really hope that's not going to happen again to my other cousins who are also applying to college right now. So let's talk about your winning essay. You should talk about things that are not already in your application package. You can talk about different things, such as your values, your beliefs, your personalities, your strengths, a weakness that you're trying to overcome, a challenge, and of course your passions. You really want the admissions officers to see what you like and what you dislike and what you can contribute to their community. And of course, you can share with them about your career paths. But most importantly, you want to tell them what makes you the interesting person you are today. You have a story. Everyone has a story. It can be that you have a 2.7 GPA, but you're really good at getting money, right? Or it can be something about you really love math, or how you actually start making money when you were 15, or how you developed an app when you were 11, right? You have one really special story to share. So write about that. But of course, before you start writing, you should do some research, right? So that's why writing takes a lot of time, because we not only have to inspect who we are as a person, we also want to learn more about what our dream school is looking for. So let's say you're interested in Harvard College. So this is what I did. I went onto Harvard College's website, and they have Jeremy Lin's on their admissions website, which I was really, really happy to see. Asian American, right? So what did Harvard say about what they're looking for? We seek to identify students who will be the best educators of one another and their professors. Individuals who will inspire those around them during their college years and beyond. So what are they looking for? They're looking for someone who can inspire others, who can influence others, who can educate others, right? Who can communicate their thoughts, who can share their ideas and passions so that they can influence their community. That's what they're looking for. So if you are someone like that, then maybe Harvard is the right fit for you. But if you don't like to share things, you don't know educating my professors, no way, right? Educating my friends, no way. Then maybe Harvard is not the right fit. So look at what your dream school is looking for and see what you can offer. So let's look at MIT. What are they looking for? So MIT is just not too far from Harvard. It usually takes me about 45 minutes from my dorm to MIT, and I walk pretty fast. So 45 minutes is good, and then 1 hour I can go to downtown Boston. So MIT is looking for students who can contribute to a team environment. So they say that when we admit a class of students, it's as if we are choosing a 1,000-person team to climb a very interesting mountain together. So we're looking for someone who wants to add something useful or intriguing to the team, from a wonderful temperament or sense of humor to compelling personal experiences to a wide range of individual gifts, talents, interests, and achievements. We're not looking for a bunch of identical people. We're looking for people who can complement each other, who can support, surprise, and inspire each other. So I read this, and I have to say this is really vague. They're looking for almost everybody, right? So then I have to think, okay, so what are they looking for? So what is MIT? Well, MIT is a STEM school, right? They're interested in people who are into math, science, and engineering. So that's their core. So you have to have a strong math or science background first, and then you need to be able to contribute to their 1,000-person team. by bringing your musical talents or your ability to influence others or community work. So that's when you have to think about fit. What do they have and what can I offer? So, needless to say, there is a theory about fit, person-organization fit. It's not just about what I want, right? Remember we talked about in our class today? Because sometimes when we write, we only think about me, what I want. Sometimes we forget to think about what the college is looking for, right? It's not just me. Because fit is a two-way street. It's about, yes, I want to get into your school, but hey, I can offer something. I can contribute to your community. I can help you out. I can make you proud. So it's about fit. And research shows that when you are in an environment that's congruent with your personalities or with your interests, you tend to be happier and you're less likely to leave the school or the organization. And of course, when there's the right fit, the organization is more likely to choose you. So, we have to really think about what fit is. And let me share with you some of the, I have here typical students in the top schools. So like I said, I have been mentoring students, Harvard students for a while now. And I actually also have interviewed many of them because I hire them to work for me during the summer. So we have summer Ivy League camp, and we are going to have a Thanksgiving camp next month. So I hire many of them, and I work with them, and so I have many interesting conversations with them. So let me share with you some of the, the students that I have met, and these are the 4 different types of students that I have interacted with so far. So the first type is first-generation college students. So these are students who do not have a lot of support from their parents in terms of their education background. So they actually have a lot to do on their own as they're growing up. So I actually talked to this one student. He's Vietnamese American. So he came to the US when he was young with his parents. His parents do not really speak a lot of English. So he really had no one to help him in terms of with his homework, with his research papers or his projects. But one thing that was going well for him was that one day he took a science class and suddenly he became interested in recycling, in community clean-up projects, in energy conservation. So what he did was he just started to pick up garbages around his community, around his school, around his neighborhood parks. And then from there, he got to meet a group of friends or people who shared the same interests. And these people actually mentored him and inspired him to do better. They actually tutored him, and he found different opportunities to get over that barriers from his family. And he was able to succeed. He did better than many of his friends. And what he shared with us was that that's one thing that Harvard really, really liked about him, that he was able to overcome something that was really, really difficult for him. And of course, we also know that there are students who are really strong athletes. So there was one person who worked for us this summer. She was the captain of her country's field hockey team. So that was really, really impressive. So the national field hockey team, okay. But one thing that was really, really interesting about her was that she got to travel around the world. And then during her time around the world, she got to experience different cultures, and she started to use her abilities to teach people or to influence people. And there was another thing that was kind of interesting about her was that she had learning disabilities. So somehow she was able to overcome different barriers to get to where she is today. And that's why she got into Harvard. Again, it's not just because she's a gifted student in whatever sports she's in, it's also because she had to overcome something that was really challenging for her. And of course, your ability to impact the world, your ability to step outside of your comfort zone. So there was another group of students that I talked to. They actually took a gap year during their high school. So there was one student, when he was in 11th grade, actually before when he was a sophomore, he decided to go to a country in Asia, a relatively less known country, and this country, they speak a language he really doesn't know anything about. So he decided to learn this new language, and he decided to go there for a year. And when he returned, he can actually speak the language fluently. And Harvard was really impressed with students who are able to take that step, to leave the comfort of their own home, to try something new, to experience something that's unknown to them. So that's another type of students. And of course, we have well-rounded students who are good at almost everything. They have really good GPA, captain of the school tennis team, student government, council, different things. So we also have a group of students who are like that. But all in all they have in common is that they all work really, really hard to get to where they are today. When I talk to them or when I interview them, none of them ever said to me that I got into Harvard because I'm really smart. No one said that. They all said, I got into Harvard because I worked really, really hard. I was really, really driven. So I want to share this little story with you about Mitchell. Mitchell Dong is one of Harvard's alum. He is in his 60s now. Very energetic person, very animated. He has his own website, mitchelldong.com. Very successful entrepreneur. He was interviewed. If you Google him, I'm sure you can find him. Very active. He's a student mentor. So he shared with us about what his teacher said about him. So what Harvard does is that they allow their graduates to review their files or profiles after they graduate. Okay, so after you graduate from Harvard, you can go down to the registrar's office and say, I want to see my files. And they will show it to you. So it was like a trip down the memory lane for Mitchell. And so he was looking at his report card and he saw this C+ that he had for his chemistry class, which derailed his plan to become a doctor. And then he found something from his freshman year art teacher. So his first semester at Harvard. This teacher said, Mitchell has no talent. And then she said, so she went on to describe how he could not see things, how he could not draw realistically, how he had no sense of composition, no sense of perspective, and no feeling for color. Well, here's the punchline, but Mitchell makes up for it in hard work. And he did. He's really, really successful. So that's his website, Mitchell Dong, Independent Energy Entrepreneur. Really, really successful person. You can look him up. So, and I did ask him for permission. I said, can I use your story to inspire or motivate students? And he said, yeah, sure, of course. So he was really happy that I'm talking about him now. So this is one theory that I talk to my students about, which is mastery versus performance orientation. So why am I sharing this theory with you? It's because when we write, we tend to think about our achievements. instead of the process that it took us to get to where we are. Okay, we tend to think about the outcome, but not the challenges that we had to endure. And that's the part where the admissions officers would really, really like to see. So the theory says that when we do things, we tend to have a reason. Sometimes this reason can be because we really enjoy doing something, like math. I really enjoy math. I really enjoy programming. Or it may be because I just want to do it because I want to be better than others. Or I'm doing it because I want to please my parents. Okay, so there's no heart, there's no passion in it. So if you have a mastery orientation, that means you are doing something because you truly care about something. If you have a performance orientation, that's when you're doing something to outperform others or to avoid appearing incompetent. And of course, each person can have both orientations, but when you write or when you frame your paper, it would be really helpful if you were to frame it with the mastery or goal orientation, because you will show in your writing. And mastery orientation is preferred because students tend to enjoy learning more when they do something, and they tend to show more persistence, and they actually contribute more to a group when they have a mastery orientation. So if you're not sure if you have a mastery or performance goal orientation, here's a little survey. So my goal is to perform well relative to others. If your answer is yes, then you have a performance orientation. Okay. My goal is to avoid doing worse than others. If you say yes, that's also a performance orientation. My aim is to completely master the material in my course. Mastery. My goal is to learn as much as possible. Mastery. I'm striving to understand course content as thoroughly as possible. Mastery. Okay. So if you have a mastery goal orientation, that's where you will do better than others. Actually, research also shows that students with a mastery orientation, they tend to have higher GPA, which is kind of interesting, right? Because, well, performance, you're competitive, right? Then you should have higher GPA. That's not what the research has found. So when you write, if you can, write with a mastery orientation. If you can reset your goal, set it to mastery orientation goal. So, how to present your story? Like I said, present it as a process. As a process of learning. You're learning something, you're enjoying the process, you really like to help others. You're here because you want to contribute to the community. It's not just about me, what I want, or what I can do. Sure, you can write about that, but the colleges will not like to read about just you, right? It should be a two-way street. So you can talk about your values, personalities, best traits, strengths, sense of humor. But before we can do all these things, we have to know who we are. So self-discovery is the first step. So if you don't know who you are yet, because many students, especially if you're younger, they will say, yeah, I don't know what my strengths are, what my weaknesses are, what my best traits are. That's okay. Interview your parents. That's one good way to start. And then interview your friends. And then have them interview you. I would encourage you to spend at least 5 minutes on each question. So don't just get the superficial answers. Okay, really go deep, dive deep. Because only by doing that, you can really find out who you are and write your winning essay. So remember, pick a story that will highlight who you are as a person. You have to show, you have to be true to yourself. Be really specific. Okay, don't just say, oh, I like something. Tell them why, how, when, what. The process is what the admissions officers are looking for. Your ability to self-reflect. Keep it simple, because you only have 500-600 words. Show yourself, and always start early. Well, thank you. That's my presentation today.